Cabinet reshuffle involving unveiled.
The cabinet has announced a reshuffle involving 16 officials across 10 government agencies. Premier Zhu Rongtai is set to lead the new cabinet at a public appearance following a weekly cabinet meeting later today. The reshuffle means that Cabinet Secretary General Kung Ming-shin will take over as the Minister of Economic Affairs, replacing Kuo Ji-hui, who resigned late last week due to health issues. Kung's position will be filled by Xavier Chang, who currently serves as Deputy Secretary General at the Presidential Office. National Development Council Minister Paul Liu, who has also resigned for health reasons, will be replaced by Ye Chunxian, a research fellow at the Institute of Economics, Academia Sinica. Deputy Digital Minister Lin Yijing has been promoted to succeed Yannan Huang, who has resigned to return to Academia Sinica. National Health Insurance Administration Director General Shi Chungliang will succeed Chu Taiyuan as Health Minister, while Centers for Disease Control Director General Zhuang Renxiang has been promoted to serve as Deputy Health Minister. Olympic badminton gold medalist Li Yang has been appointed to head the Ministry of Sports when it's inaugurated on September 9th. Former UK Conservative Party leader urges democracies to back Taiwan.
Former UK Conservative Party leader urges democracies to back Taiwan.
Against China, former UK Conservative Party leader Ian Duncan Smith is urging democracies to stand with Taiwan against growing threats from China. Smith told attendees at a gala hosted by the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China that Taiwan is a vibrant democracy with its own government, its own institutions, and people who freely choose their government and their destiny with open, transparent, and very hard-forged elections. However, he warned that too many Western governments in the pursuit of trade now seem prepared to turn a blind eye to the brutal behavior of China. He called it a modern form of appeasement. Smith claimed China has one objective: to take back Taiwan, and we should have one objective: to stop them doing it whenever. Vice President Xiao B. Kim also attended the gala. She thanked Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China members for traveling to Taiwan to show steadfast support for its people, saying their presence here sends a powerful message of solidarity among democracies and freedom-loving people around the world. First French Polynesian delegation in 40 years visits Taiwan.
First French Polynesian delegation in 40 years visits Taiwan.
A delegation of French Polynesian politicians is visiting Taiwan for the first time in nearly 40 years. A 7-member delegation includes Teva Rohfritsch, one of French Polynesia's 2 senators in the French Senate, as well as 2 former presidents. They will be here until Saturday. A last visit to Taiwan by a French Polynesian parliamentary delegation was in 1987. The Foreign Ministry says the delegation will visit several government agencies, including the Ministry of Education, Council of Indigenous Peoples, and Ministry of Agriculture. They also take part in a banquet hosted by Deputy Foreign Minister Francois Wu in their honor. Also on the agenda, a visit to the Eta Thao tribe at Sun Moon Lake in Nantao and the Ocean Affairs Council in Kaohsiung. Tuvalu Parliament Speaker visits Taiwan for Asian lawmakers meeting.
Tuvalu Parliament Speaker visits Taiwan for Asian lawmakers meeting.
Tuvalu's Parliament Speaker, Jacoba Italali, is in Taiwan for a 9-day visit. Italali is heading a 6-member delegation and will be attending the 53rd General Assembly of the Asian Pacific Parliamentarians Union in Taipei. Italali was welcomed on his arrival at Taoyuan International Airport, Vice Foreign Minister Ger Baochuan. The Foreign Ministry says the delegation will meet President Lai Ching-te and Legislative Speaker Han Kuo-yu and attend a reception hosted by Foreign Minister Lin Chia-lung during its stay. It is Italali's second visit to Taiwan since he was named Speaker in February 2024. The Assembly of the Asian Pacific Parliamentarians Union was founded in 1965 by lawmakers from Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Thailand. Supreme Court upholds rejection of death row inmate retrial request.
Supreme Court upholds rejection of death row inmate retrial request.
The Supreme Court is upholding a high court decision to deny the request of death row inmate Chen Yilong to a retrial. The ruling concluded that the High Court had not erred in dismissing Chen's petition. Chen had argued that the Constitutional Court's judgment, which declared mandatory death sentences unconstitutional, gave him grounds to request special relief through a retrial. He submitted his petition to the High Court in June, citing the Constitutional Court's ruling as new evidence. But the High Court ruled that, while the Constitutional Court's decision allowed death row inmates to ask the Prosecutor General to file an extraordinary appeal, it did not justify a retrial. And Chen's petition was based on a misunderstanding of the law and therefore did not meet the requirements for reopening the case. There are currently 36 inmates on death row. Labor Ministry announces higher incentives for youth employment support.
Labor Ministry announces higher incentives for Youth Employment Support Program.
A Ministry of Labor has unveiled a new youth employment support program. The program is set to take effect on September 1st. The program raises monthly allowances for first-time job seekers to $6,010 and offers additional incentives for those who achieve stable employment. The new program also expands on the existing first-time job seeker stable employment program by shortening the required period of unemployment from 90 to 60 days. The Labor Ministry says it's aimed at young people aged between 15 and 29 who are entering the job market for the first time. The initiative to address the risk of long-term unemployment caused by international trade factors, including the recent U.S. tariffs, which could make job hunting more difficult. Applicants must not be enrolled in school or engaged in full-time work and must have been unemployed for at least 60 consecutive days to be eligible for up to 3 months of financial support. High-speed rail to end early boarding flexibility, November 10th.
High-speed rail to end early boarding flexibility, November 10th.
And the High-Speed Rail Corporation has announced that it will end its policy allowing passengers with reserved seat tickets to board earlier trains and sit in non-reserved cars on November 10th. The practice was first introduced to give passengers flexibility, but it's now used by several hundred people daily. The network operator says it has led to wasted reserved seats and overcrowding in non-reserved cars, which are affecting travel quality. Under the new rules, reserved seat passengers wishing to take an earlier train will have to exchange their tickets in advance. This change is part of recent measures announced by Corporation Chairman Shi Che to improve services, which including plans to designate certain peak hour trains as non-reserved services next year. UNRWA, all hope is gone.
UNRWA, all hope is gone.
A United Nations official tells the Associated Press that if Israel's military goes ahead with a planned offensive in Gaza City, then all hope is gone that we're ever going to see the end to this. Sam Rose is the acting director of Gaza operations for UNRWA, or the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees. His comments come as Israeli tanks and armored vehicles have deployed to the outskirts of Gaza City, and Israel says the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people there is inevitable. That adds to international alarm as famine threatens to spread there after 22 months of war. Australia, Canada, Philippines deploy ships to South China Sea.
Australia, Canada, Philippines deploy ships to South China Sea.
Australia, Canada, and the Philippines have deployed 3 warships and aircraft for drills against simulated aerial threats off a disputed South China Sea shoal, where Chinese forces have used risky maneuvers to try to drive away Manila's aircraft and ships. The Philippine military said the naval drills east of the Scarborough Shoal on Wednesday were concluded safely. The military did not mention any encounter with Chinese Coast Guard, Navy, and suspected militia ships, which have been closely guarding the uninhabited fishing atoll off the northwestern Philippines for years. Chinese officials did not immediately issue any comment on the naval drills, but they have repeatedly warned that they would defend the shoal and outlying waters, which they claim as Beijing's territory, at all cost. South Asia flooding.
South Asia flooding.
Torrential rainfall has left at least 34 people dead in Pakistan and India, and triggered flash floods and landslides in Indian-controlled Kashmir. The rains have displaced over 210,000 people in Pakistan, have been displaced. It's also submerged the shrine of the founder of the Sikh religion. Many of the dead were trekking on a popular Hindu pilgrimage route. Forecasters say rain will continue across the region this week. Heavy downpours and flash floods in the Himalayan region have killed nearly 100 people in August alone. While the region has always seen heavy monsoon rains, scientists say climate change is making these rains worse. New U.S. immigration policies.
New U.S. immigration policies.
The Trump administration aims to tighten the duration of visas for students, cultural exchange visitors, and members of the media. The move, reported by Reuters, is seen as part of a broader crackdown on legal immigration. The proposed regulation would create a fixed time period for F visas for international students, J visas that allow visitors on cultural exchange programs to work in the U.S., and I visas for members of the media. Those visas are currently available for the duration of the program or U.S.-based employment. The student and exchange visa periods would be no longer than 4 years, the proposed regulation said. The visa for journalists, which currently can last years, would be up to 240 days, or, in the case of Chinese nationals, 90 days. The visa holders could apply for extensions. The Trump administration said in the proposed regulation that the change was needed to better monitor and oversee the visa holders while they were in the United States. The public will have 30 days to comment on the measure. Cabinet reshuffle involving 16 officials and 10 agencies unveiled.
President Lai on Legislative Caucus and Cabinet reshuffle.
President Lai Ching-te has made it clear that he wants the PPP Legislative Caucus to reorganize, saying that it would be more in line with public expectations. Lai said today the cabinet has adjusted 16 leading positions in 10 ministries and agencies, and the new cabinet will give priorities to economic development, people's livelihoods, young people, and the disadvantaged. He stressed that the reshuffling is necessary to improve efficiency, responsiveness, and alignment with public opinion when Taiwan is facing multiple challenges at home and from abroad. Noting that the DPP top-level party officials have also been reshuffled, Lai said the next step should be a change in the leadership of the party's legislative caucus. This is the first time Lai has implied that he wants DPP Legislative Whip K. Jianming to step down, as K is the only one among the 7-member leadership team that has refused to step down.
MOA on Singapore electricity price decrease.
The Ministry of Economic Affairs says even after a recent price cut, the cost of household electricity in Singapore is still more than double the price in Taiwan. The ministry says Taiwan's prices rose far less than Singapore between 2020 to 2024, and residential electricity prices in Singapore now are still 2.5 times more expensive than in Taiwan. The statement comes in response to social media posts claiming that Singapore's electricity prices are falling while Taiwan's are expected to rise. Officials point out that Singapore passed on the cost of rising international fuel prices to consumers, with a more than 50% increase since 2020. And this is why the city-state now has room to lower prices. The ministry says Taiwan's state-run utility has absorbed some of the fuel cost increases, helping to keep prices stable.
Israeli-U.S. officials meet in D.C.
Now turning to international news. Israeli and U.S. officials are meeting in Washington, D.C. to discuss the future of the Gaza Strip. That's as Israel's military is planning the forced evacuation of Gaza City, saying it's inevitable. Meanwhile, there's mounting outrage over Israel's double strike this week on a hospital in the south of the Gaza Strip. In that instance, Israel first struck the hospital once, before striking again, as medical workers and journalists arrived at the scene. Local officials say the death toll from that attack rose to 22. Israel claims that 6 of those dead were militants, but offered no proof for the assertion. And Israel killed another 39 yesterday across Gaza, most of whom died in Israeli strikes and gunfire, and 5 of whom were seeking aid. Pope demands Israel end siege on Gaza.
Pope demands Israel end siege on Gaza.
And in related news, Pope Leo XIV is demanding the Israel and IRS collective punishment of Gazans. During his remarks, he was interrupted twice by applause. The Pope also called for the release of the remaining hostages still held by Hamas and for both sides to end aggression. Leo also called for a permanent ceasefire, the facilitation of aid, and the respect of humanitarian law. Cabinet reshuffle involving unveiled.
Lai underscores Asia-Pacific ties and defense spending.
President Lai Ching-te is highlighting Asia-Pacific ties and higher defense spending in remarks at the 2025 General Assembly of the Asian-Pacific Parliamentarians Union in Taipei. Lai says that Taiwan will work with Asian-Pacific partners to promote peace and sustainable development, while also pledging stronger defense capabilities and economic security. He says that defense spending will exceed 3% of GDP next year, under a cabinet spending proposal. That's still pending legislative approval. Lai added that the government plans to raise that figure to 5% by 2030. Meanwhile, he said, Taiwan is strengthening economic cooperation with the US, Japan, and the EU, moving away from past reliance on China. He stated that Taiwan's investment in China totaled 7.5% of outbound investment last year. That's down from nearly 85% in 2010.
MOA, pork supply stable ahead of Mid-Autumn and Ghost Festival.
The Ministry of Agriculture says the supply of pork has stabilized and will be sufficient to meet demand for the upcoming Ghost Festival. The ministry says an average of 21,000 pigs will be supplied daily in the week leading up to the holiday, and prices will remain in a reasonable range. Earlier this month, pork supply was slightly short due to rough weather, high summer temperatures, and disease. Officials say several response measures were implemented, including having a state-run company increase supply and having freezing plants reduce their purchases. The MOA says it now expects supplies to remain stable as the weather gets cooler, and prices should return to normal by the end of the year.
Chiayi schools ready for new semester.
Chiayi County Magistrate Meng Zhangliang says schools in the county have returned to their regular conditions after Typhoon Danis and subsequent heavy rain wreaked havoc on buildings and infrastructure in the county. Wang, also known as Pasuya, added that the damage has been restored and students can look forward to a comfortable and safe learning environment ahead of the new semester. He also noted that several schools in Chiayi were flooded during the heavy rain that followed Typhoon Danis. Wang thanked those from all over the country who helped restore the schools while students were on break.
Russia kills 4, injures 30 in Ukraine.
Now turning to international news. The death toll in a Russian strike on Ukraine has now risen to 4, with 30 injured. And that number is still expected to increase. A drone and missile attack on Kyiv hit a residential building in the city, and nearly 100 more buildings in 20 locations, as rescuers work to pull people from the rubble. The death toll is expected to rise. This is the first major combined attack on Kyiv since the US and Russian presidents met earlier this month to talk about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. While a diplomatic push to end the war appeared to gain momentum shortly after that meeting, it appears to have stalled since. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is hoping for harsher U.S. sanctions to cripple the Russian economy if Putin does not demonstrate seriousness about ending the war. President Lai on Legislative Caucus and Cabinet Reshuffle.
THSR reinforces ticketing system ahead of holiday sales.
Taiwan High-Speed Rail says it has strengthened its ticketing system as sales open at midnight tonight for upcoming long weekends. The tickets cover an 18-day period spanning Teachers' Day, the Mid-Autumn Festival, and Double 10 National Day, the longest continuous holiday schedule in the company's history. Officials say the system can now handle up to 38,000 users booking at once, about 1.7 times more than during Lunar New Year sales. Extra staff will be on duty overnight to monitor operations and ensure stability. Tickets can be purchased through the website, the official T-Express app, convenience stores, and at station counters or ticketing machines. THSR is also expanding its early bird program, offering record 50% discounts on select off-peak trains with 150,000 discounted seats available.
Lucky the pit bull relocated from Taipei to Yunlin with new owner.
Lucky, the pit bull that bit 2 people in Taipei earlier this year, has been relocated to Yunlin County under a new owner. A 10-year-old dog was seized by Taipei's Animal Protection Office after leaping from a car window and injuring scooter riders on 2 occasions in March. Officials had considered putting the dog down, but a man surnamed Tsai.
Germany aims to build military.
Germany is stepping up efforts to boost its armed forces as fears of Russian aggression in Europe grow. Chancellor Friedrich Merz's government has approved a new plan to attract more young people into voluntary service, aiming to expand the military to about 145% of its current size. The German defense minister says, deterrence against Russia requires not only modern weapons, but also more soldiers. The plan offers better pay and flexible terms for recruits, and starting in 2027, young men will be required to undergo medical exams, though not to enlist. Some conservatives argue the measures don't go far enough and say compulsory service may still be needed. Meanwhile, Germany also opened a new ammunition plant this week, part of a wider push to ramp up Europe's defense production. Special cheesesteaks in Sweden.
Special cheesesteaks in Sweden.
Have you ever tried a Philly cheesesteak? Well, imagine that, but swap the beef for moose and reindeer. In the far north of Sweden, a food truck called Steak Street Food is serving up Arctic cheesesteaks, hoagie rolls packed with locally sourced moose and smoked reindeer meat. The owners say they wanted something hearty for Lapland's miners and tasty for curious tourists. And it's a hit. The shop goes through more than 300 pounds of meat every week. Visitors love it too. One British tourist joked about eating Rudolph with their t-shirt reading, "I'm glad Rudolph is dead." Lie underscores Asia-Pacific ties and defense spending.
Taipei halts use of Chinese-made robot dogs amid security concerns.
Taipei's plan to deploy Chinese-made robot dogs for sidewalk patrols has been put on hold, following criticism from lawmakers over national security and budget issues. Deputy Mayor Li Xuan had promoted the machines online, saying they would help identify areas in need of repair. But it was later confirmed the robots were made by China's Unitree Robotics, though city officials stressed the data systems were developed locally and the project was still only in trial. DPP Legislative Caucus Secretary General Wu Xiao blasted Mayor Chang Wan-an for what she called careless budget management, accusing him of wasting taxpayer money on overpriced equipment with security risks. She also criticized him for demanding more central government subsidies while misusing city funds. Meanwhile, incoming Digital Affairs Minister Lin Yiqing reminded local governments that they must apply for approval before using Chinese-made ICT products, adding that Taipei City has not submitted such a request as of August 27th.
Keelung Museum to retire popular Harry Potter broom installation.
The National Museum of Marine Science and Technology in Keelung announced it will retire its eco-themed art installation, A Good Blow of Brooms, a favorite among Harry Potter fans. Created in 2016 by French artist Patrick Demezeau, the installation was designed to raise environmental awareness. However, over the years, it became a popular photo spot due to its magical resemblance to flying brooms. Of the original 19 sculptures, only 9 remain, damaged by typhoons, seaside erosion, and the scarcity of the specific bamboo used. The museum plans to let the installation naturally decay and encourages visitors to take photos with the remaining brooms while they last.
3 new local Mpox cases reported in August.
The Centers for Disease Control is reporting 3 new local cases of Mpox in August. All patients are men in their 20s to 40s from northern and central Taiwan. Officials say the cases are sporadic, not part of a cluster, and were confirmed after patients developed rashes and other related symptoms. Since Mpox was listed as a Category 2 notifiable communicable disease in 2022, Taiwan has recorded 483 cases, including 451 local and 32 imported. So far this year, there have been 27 local cases and 4 imported ones. The CDC notes that while case numbers are lower than in previous years, summer remains a peak season. It urges people at higher risk to complete 2 doses of the vaccine, which provides up to 90% protection. The agency also reminds the public to take precautions and seek medical care promptly if symptoms appear.
New Taipei launching Ankang Light Rail Monthly Pass.
New Taipei Metro is launching a limited-time monthly pass for the Ankang Light Rail starting September 1st. The card costs 150 NT and allows unlimited rides for 30 days. The promotion will run until January next year. Passengers who take 40 or more trips in a month can redeem a special gift the following month. First-time buyers will also receive a limited edition commemorative card featuring 350 NT coin motifs and route-specific designs. Officials say it aims to reduce commuting costs, encourage regular use of public transport, and promote a more sustainable, low-carbon transportation system.